What is up, everyone? Thanks for joining us tonight. We got Boston on our way here, and we got a great show and interview for you tonight. So very excited about doing this. Just want to say some highs. We got TJ in the house. Carrie's here. Thomas, good to see you. Green Light Go. My two. Tails, Trails, and Tacos. Good to see you back. Haven't seen you in a while. Susan, I'll be back on camera soon with a new hat. We got Glenn McBride here. Tara's here. Wow, chicka wow. And Nasty, what's up? So, tonight, this subject is in my wheelhouse. This is what I live for, is horror movies. I'm pretty sure I've seen them all. They are what kind of, got me into the haunt world. It's just all about nostalgia with horror movies for me. And I see Boston down there. Boston can come up whenever she's ready. But,
hello.
What's up, Boston?
Nothing.
So, yeah, now, are you a big horror movie fan? I know we've gone and seen a few together.
I like horror movies, yes. I would never, I mean, after meeting someone like you, I would never say I'm a big fan.
I'm like a massive horror movie fan.
I don't think I have that right. I really enjoy them. I don't think they're like my favorite genre of movies, but I watch them a lot. I love them. Friends like watching them with me because I'm easily scared. So it's fun to see me jump and scream. What did we see in theaters where I screamed?
Evil Dead Rising. You screamed in that movie.
I said, Jesus! Really loud.
Really loud.
During a very specific part of the movie that I think no
Jesus
spoilers,
was in
but if
it.
you watch it. Okay, well, there you go. Spoilers. Jesus was literally there, so it was funny.
So, but for me, those movies are great, right? Don't get me wrong. Those movies are great, but I grew up on Monster Squad and the first Halloween, and that stuff to me, when I see that, it just it immerses me into the fall season, and I love everything about that season. I can just get lost in it. And so when a good friend of mine I find out is part of a production team making a movie, I'm ecstatic to see this thing. And we actually got to see an early premiere of it.
Yes.
Absolutely
Which
loved
was
it.
Incredible.
And so I guess without further ado, let's bring our guest up here. We got Sean and Will from Screamwalkers.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello,
everybody.
Thanks for coming up here with us. How about, Sean, why don't you take the floor, introduce yourself, and then we'll let Will do the same.
Cool. My name is Sean Q King, Q for Cucumber. I am the writer, producer, director of Screamwalkers. And over here, we have another esteemed gentleman.
Hi everybody. I'm Will. You might know me from my tenure as a immersive theater extreme haunt guy, ARG dude, and I helped executive produce Screamwalkers and co-created it with Sean. Everything down to the soup to nuts, right? Soup to nuts.
Soup to nuts.
Down to the
Nuts to soup.
Down to the character design and everything. So, how's it hanging?
Awesome, dude. Thank you both for coming up here. I don't know why I can hear you fine, but your screen is frozen, but it's kind of cool because now we're all still pictures, and you guys are posed good.
I was just going to say the same thing. You're both posed
We are
good.
totally frozen.
And it's so hot in here, we're frozen.
We're
But
Whatever. It's a screensaver now. So.
exactly, and we
Yeah.
can hear you perfect. So
That's great.
that is.
Just tell us if we start moving again.
We will. We'll make sure.
That'll be a jump scare for
Yeah,
sure.
right.
frozen.
So, I guess I want to start off and show the preview for Screamwalkers so the people that are watching here can kind of see this movie. Oh, you're moving again.
Oh, moving.
Yay! We go.
Oh, we're frozen again.
Nope, not moving because they're clapping.
All right. Well.
All right.
It's
so
okay.
we're
Just make sure you don't do any, don't pick your nose or anything in case you start moving again.
It's Sean's bullshit internet.
So,
fine.
all right, I'm going to start this preview so everybody can check it out and see the movie that we're talking about.
Hey, I'm Sean.
And I'm Will.
We made a movie.
Check out the trailer right here.
Let's move.
Everyone's a suspect.
Even you?
Yes.
You don't have anything to go off of. You have nothing.
I got something. It's not a lot, but it's a start.
If that detective isn't going to solve who's killing us, we're going to have to do it ourselves.
I want a confession!
That's so good. I hadn't seen the preview. I hadn't seen that yet.
You dived right in and just saw the movie, but
I
yeah.
just went head first. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that might require some explanation on why it looks like that, and it doesn't look like a modern horror movie, maybe, and that's kind of the point.
Right. So that's actually was going to go into one of my first questions. Is I'm all about the nostalgia factor with film, and I'm going to ask you guys, why did you go that route to make this like a retro movie?
There was a few reasons, but the primary reason was that this is a mini micro budget movie. I mean, it's a 65-minute movie. It's a feature-length movie, but we crowdsourced the budget, and a bunch of wonderful people came on and helped us finance it. But the budget was so minuscule that we couldn't afford a crew. So, and like I own a production company, and like getting cameras isn't a problem. Getting good lenses and lighting isn't a problem. But when you only have such a tiny amount of money, you have to move so fast through the production. So one way to do that was to get a camcorder, and I found a couple from 1994 that looked really cool, like worked in really low light and kind of had a cool grain to it. And that way you could just turn the camcorder on and just put a few lights up. I mean, the only thing we really splurged on was the sound. And you don't have to, change lenses and, dial in T-stops and exposure and all this other stuff. We just turn the camera on, all right, go. And it just made the whole process so much faster and more fun. And also, I mean, like, who doesn't love shot-on-video horror movies? And if you're not familiar with the shot-on-video subgenre, it was big in the late 80s, early 90s. It kind of blew up then when a lot of regional filmmakers didn't have the resources that anyone else did, but they can make a movie on home video and get worldwide distribution on videotape. So it was kind of like the drive-in era for video stores. Like back in the drive-in days, you could just make a movie on 16 millimeter for very little money, and then drive-ins would program it. But in the 80s and 90s, you could make a movie on videotape and then put it in the mom and pop shops. And it even went, a lot of these movies wound up in Blockbuster and stuff and made careers of regional filmmakers, people who had very little money. So I've always loved that subgenre of shot-on-video movies. So it was kind of like, well, cool, it's a double whammy. Like, we get to speed through production with a dumb camera, and then it looks like a gnarly, like, early 90s shot-on-video movie.
I've always found like that stuff to be like the most secondary thing to the challenge initially that like you proposed. Like, could we make a movie like, could we go back to making movies when it was fun to make? It was less stressful.
Right. Yeah.
Mm.
And everything, I think all that analog stuff, like, yeah, sure, that was like the medium and that's the message, but I think that the fun part was actually just like doing films that like how we used to do when we did Gooligans and stuff.
Yeah. And that's how we kind of. That's how if you began making films in the 80s and 90s, you're old as fuck like I am. You know, that's what you started with. You started with a camcorder,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a VHS camcorder or an 8mm camcorder, and you didn't. There was no pressure. It was just videotape, and you were just making movies with your friends. So it was definitely like, and I have a production company as a day job, and I make corporate films and I shoot, you know, feature-length movies sometimes, and it's a fucking drag. It's like there's so much technical going on, and it's like it drags down production. It drags down the vibe and the attitude. So if you were just able to just fly through a movie and keep that pace up and keep everybody excited, and you had a gore scene and then you had a killer and then you threw in a monster or two, it was like that was the surefire way to get that kind of like that vibe going through the whole movie. Because like modern horror is really cool and they're doing amazing things, but I personally don't get excited about a lot of modern horror.
Yeah.
A lot of it's kind of like.
Well, I was actually going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
About your. But before I ask the question, I just want to make a comment. One of the things that Kris and I both agreed on, you could instantly feel the nostalgia, but the lighting was incredible. It was very well lit, and Kris said to me that he is a stickler for lighting, so he called that out immediately. Yeah. The lighting's great, the sound is great, and it does have that nostalgic feeling, just the way it was shot.
So one of my biggest things with like lower budget horror movies, when you see them come out, or indie horror movies, the lighting it's like a missed opportunity because it adds so much to the value of the product. And I mean, you guys just nailed it with this movie. It was just
Mr. Sean, he's a DP, and like I would always gravitate towards Sean for cinematography and lighting, because Sean just I worked with him on a ton of different commercials. Like he shot like a bunch of Dead of Night commercials with me. Like the reason why you go to Sean King is because he gets horror lighting, and he gets the low budget horror lighting because he grew up watching stuff like that. I call him like the VHS Dario Argento. That's really but that's what it is. If you look at Screamwalkers, there is so much Argentinian lighting in there, and like that's just how you know that Sean really loves. Like this came from his heart more than it came, and his wallet, but like it came from his heart. So that's what made doing this fun again, because it was like making a movie with your friends in your backyard, and that's the most important part of Screamwalkers, I think. Is that it brought all our friends together again, and we all worked on this collectively, and there wasn't you were everyone's dad during the whole production, but like he had to be. That's what made this good, though. It was. And that's why Sean is always going to be the lighting dude for everything moving forward.
It was great. I can tell you that from a viewer perspective, you could really feel the fun that was had in making this movie. You really could feel that. And my question to each of you is, speaking of nostalgia, what horror film is the most nostalgic to you, and why? Like, what makes it, like, if you could pick one that you're like, damn, that is the most nostalgic horror film for me, which one would it be?
Oh boy, nostalgic. I'm usually anti-nostalgia, so
that's true. He is. He hates this shit.
Yeah, I'm just. Well, I don't mind it. I mean, I fall victim to it every day, but I watch 80s sitcoms for nostalgia, or Steven Spielberg movies like E.T. or something for nostalgia. But I don't like to be slavish to it. I think it's a crutch for the genre and entertainment period. that we've been stuck in, that we've been leaning on for way too long. But nostalgia, I mean, I'll go with my number one favorite movie, Evil Dead 2. So that's my favorite movie of all time, and that kind of changed my life, and I'll never forget renting it in 1987, late 87 or early 88. I can't remember exactly when it was, and then just watching it 4 times in a row, just in awe and just wonder of how the hell that thing.
You see that in everything he makes, by the way. You can absolutely see Sam Raimi influence. And if you go on YouTube after this and look up NewYorkHauntTours.com commercial, you'll see Evil Dead full force for Sean King.
Yeah. So that's probably it. And I watched it so much growing up that I can barely watch it now, but it's still like the greatest achievement of mankind, I think. Yeah. Probably.
Oh, it's my turn.
Your turn.
This is gonna sound stupid, but it's Halloween. Halloween is like the most
basic as shit, but okay.
It's basic as shit. But what made that movie important to me was it was one of the first horror films. Like I was 4 years old when I saw it.
Yeah.
So and what I fell in love with that movie was the movies. There's nothingness to that movie. It is very minimalist, and it is like that has inspired me for everything that I've done moving forward, especially cinematography. Because why am I blanking on his name right now?
Dean Cundey?
Dean Cundey, yeah. So if you look at any John Carpenter movie, and if you look at any of the stuff that I've created, there's a lot of references to John Carpenter and Dean Cundey, and that Halloween is the pinnacle horror film for me.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it's you can't deny
it's pretty good.
It's
pretty good.
It's good, and then the sequel, the only sequel that matters after that, which is my close second favorite, is Halloween 3.
Yeah, and that's pretty nostalgic to me too, because these are things that were on TV, maybe HBO. And TBS and Monster Vision.
Yep, well, that's how I first. Yes, Monster Vision was how I first saw Halloween.
USA Up All Night.
Yes, and then you have what's his name? The guy that was on
Commander USA.
Yeah, dude. Yes, yes. Oh,
yeah, we kind of grew up with the horror hosts on USA Network and Elvira. I go back watching Elvira.
I don't like Elvira. I don't get Elvira, but I get Joe Bob,
and they have Joe Bob now. So yeah. So a lot of those early memories are probably watching movies on. Toxic Avenger was a big one.
Oh yeah.
So if there's any nostalgia also that you pick up in Screamwalkers, it's that if you came home, one thing that we hear from a lot of people who have seen it, Eric Strickler, who runs Nyctophobia Haunted House and runs Pretty Much It, which is a really big YouTube show. He said it was an R-rated Goosebumps episode.
That's cool.
And that is probably the badge of honor. And Chris, I think you even said the same thing when you first saw it, is that it was a made-for-TV movie that was rated R, and it's something you'd go home to watch when you were a kid. And maybe you should have been watching it, but how is it on daytime TV after you get out of school kind of thing?
Right.
And that's the nostalgia that I get out of it, is that's something that we would have watched when we got home from school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's some stuff I want to add to that. And real quick, I want to say thank you, Faruka, for the super sticker. Appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
But I want to add to, you were saying, after I got done watching it, I called you up and I was like, dude, this is coming home from school, watching Goosebumps, right? But instead of seeing the Goosebumps I saw back when I was young, it aged with me. It matured with me, and it gave that adult context throughout the thing. It was now a rated R Goosebumps. And it brought back so many memories, and it's a fun movie. And so we got the 90s, camera style going on and video look to it. But my question then now is, do you prefer, when you watch a horror movie, do you prefer CG effects or practical effects?
Oh, that's a serious question.
Always practical.
Well, you know what? I mean, it depends on what you're looking at. You know, I guess it depends on. One thing I can't stand is like, you know, like a some blood splashing and it's like a, you know, it's an overlay or some kind of bullshit like that. It's just like why did you even do this movie? Like, get your hands
Land
dirty.
of the Dead has like a ton of like blood splatter.
Yeah, it just
effects.
has like, it has added like layers of fake blood splatter.
Right.
Awful. I
At
hate
least
it.
they got like some good practical gore and stuff.
No,
But-
you could do everything with practical.
Well, you know what? Like, if we're maybe it's not strictly horror, but some of the stuff definitely is. Like Guillermo del Toro's movies have some of the most beautiful practical creature effects, but also they use, you know, they augment with CGI, and it's jaw-droppingly beautiful.
Right.
I think they could help each other out as long as they both. I think, I mean, it makes much more of an impact from me growing up in the 80s when it's practical, but someone, you know, a 12-year-old fan getting into horror now, maybe he or she is like, they can't recognize a practical effect. They call it CGI because that's the only reference they have is you know, computer digital imagery or whatever. So maybe like they can't tell the difference, but when I watch The Thing, you know, John Carpenter's The Thing, it's clear to me from reading Fangoria and reading Dick Smith books and Tom Savini books on how that stuff is done. But a 10-year-old watching that would just think it's CGI, and they might not know the difference. So,
Right.
you know, who the fuck knows what's better and worse? It's what, you know, it's less about that. It's more about how you enjoy the overall experience, I think.
I don't know, man. I think like if you go back and watch a movie like Rawhead Rex, like you could choose to make that modern day movie with special effects, but like you would never have the charm of like the animated eyes.
Right.
And,
yeah.
Like you wouldn't have
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look at a movie like like Rock and Roll Nightmare. You know.
Yeah.
Like, try to make Rock and Roll Nightmare, those monsters, if anybody knows what the hell that
no one
is.
here knows.
I was like, maybe Chris does.
All right, well, look up Rock and Roll Nightmare on YouTube.
Okay.
And like, you know, I mean, it's just like they have these great-looking monster puppets and creatures that are clearly just like puppeteered and, you know, people in suits and makeup and stuff.
Or freaked.
Freaked was great.
Yeah.
Hey,
And it's just like that's the only way to do that. That is the only way, and that's why that's the only reason we reference these movies anymore. Or I reference Rock and Roll Nightmare, you know, at least.
Well, also, if you want to watch a really great movie, watch Freaked. It's on YouTube, the whole movie. That's Alex Winter, who is from Bill and Ted, and that's his movie, and that movie is just fantastic, chock full of practical special effects.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's just like what a marvelous work of genius, and just like an
He's a
unbelievable
genius
achievement.
person. He's a genius
I
guy.
mean, just the monsters, the creatures, and the effects in that movie. I mean, it's everything from claymation and stop motion to massive creature work. It's unbelievable. And but again, if you don't know how this stuff is done, if you're not in the factory watching it being made, then it doesn't matter, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I love the practical effects. I think it looks more real, it looks more tangible, where you get that super smooth, shiny CGI, and it takes me out of the movie.
Right, yeah. It takes me out too. And that's why I like watching low budget movies. That's why we both like watching regional or, underground homemade movies, because they try anything to get a gag to work.
You ever see Snow Beast?
Snow Beast, I have
Winter
not.
Beast. That fucking movie, dude. Who makes those movies?
I don't know the filmmakers. I don't know.
Those movies are nuts, and those are all practical effects. Those, they're way more fun. They're way more fun.
Right. Well, yeah, it's just fun to watch filmmakers try to achieve something that's slightly beyond their capabilities. I think that's the most. It's probably the most charming thing you could watch in a movie, it puts you there. It makes you sympathize with the filmmakers and root for them.
Sure.
And it's hard to root for a movie like the Underworld movies. If you're a fan, that's awesome.
They're awful. Those are awful.
Yeah,
movies.
but kids will grow up with that, and that's their favorite movie, and they can't watch The Thing or something.
And that's why bullying is important. Those kids deserve to be bullied.
The parents' job to keep them away from them.
Yeah, like my dad,
My dad would have kicked your ass if you were watching.
My dad and I have my biological father and I have a very weird relationship, but there's one thing that I will always remember about him: renting fucking Carnosaur at Blockbuster Video.
Well, that's
and bringing that home and watching that movie. What? Damn it, Sean.
DVD.
So that's what I want out of the nostalgia from Screenwalkers. If people are gonna watch that, I want them to think back to when they were a kid in the 80s and the 90s, and they were they found this movie either on a VHS that was burned from the TV, recorded off the TV, or from their local video store, and it was just neighborhood kids that got a movie in the video store. That's the nostalgia feeling that I want from this, and that's what I want you to have too. Well, you should have that.
Yeah,
I think
have that. If we can help you have that, let us know.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a perfect segue.
Don't write to me at all.
Sorry. Say that again.
I think this is a perfect segue, actually, to watch part of the movie. This is a clip from Screamwalker. So let me just get that.
Yay! Because then I'll be allowed to talk about something, and I won't have to worry about spoiling.
There's not spoilers in the movie. It's okay.
Well, he's pulling the clip up. I have to say that you definitely did that for him with this movie. For me, when I was younger, I was forbidden from even seeing Jurassic Park, I want to say.
Oh, okay.
When it came out, I was 10 years old and very much could have seen it. But my parents didn't want to deal with the nightmares because I had trauma from Child's Play, walking in on Child's Play at a sleepover when I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
All right, let's play this clip real quick.
All right. Enjoy. Roll that beautiful bean footage. Whoa, that was so scary.
Yes!
That was great.
I'm so glad that was the clip. I'm so glad that was the clip.
For some context, the actor, the character of Beth there, played wonderfully by Rose Stark. She was knitting a scarf. So that was the setup for the gag, the ball of yarn and stuff.
We had more gag. Well, I should say I wanted more gags in this movie, like cat themed gags.
You did want.
The
I
cat,
wanted more, and I felt like I deserved it.
but it was subtle. It was subtle in such a perfect way at the very end, where it's just the ball and the killer looks down and
was-
just like bats it.
That was random. That was all improv.
No, that
Was
was,
it?
that was your first idea.
I improv that idea.
Well,
I said I'm gonna play with it like a cat would.
that was
yeah.
Will Pintarich as.
Oh yeah, I played.
Oh, was it?
Walker in that scene.
I played the killer for like 90% of the movie.
That's right.
What?
Wonderfully. Did his
I
all his
did
own
not know
stunt.
that.
Oh yeah. That's the other thing is that I'm my own stunt guy. I will throw myself in front of a car. I don't really like my life.
You lost a leg.
I lost a leg. I lost.
You grew it back nicely.
Yeah, right. But yeah, no, I don't value my life enough to not do these dangerous things.
Which is a perfect for a stuntman. And,
Yeah.
And if anybody needs a stunt person, find some suicidal person willing to participate.
Unless it's an
in
adult
your
film, which I won't do.
Yeah, that's too
Unless I'm
dangerous.
desperate
You
enough.
value yourself.
But
just
but
not to do pornography.
but hold on.
Well, for right this moment, if things get worse in the economy,
As
I'm
far
gonna
as
change my
it's
mind.
okay. Yeah, but that, I mean, that's like there's a few. Look, we're not gonna kind of like avoid our obvious influences for this movie.
Just say what.
Well, I won't say it, but I don't need to say it. I mean,
It's
look,
Scream
it's-
and it's Scream and the movie Sleepwalkers.
Yeah. So
And
this was the.
we came up with this idea. So Sean was always like in the background of doing Dark Knight Halloween World, and we would often talk about alternate reality movies and like different, like, because we had a podcast called the Pitch It Movie Podcast, and that, like, it's a brainchild of all of those things together. And this whole thing started off as an ARG character.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you about that. So this was originally a game.
So it was part of a game and an experience at Dark Knight Halloween World. It started off at From Beyond, which was a drive-through Halloween show about the Aurora Institute, which you are all probably aware of if you follow my work.
Mhm.
They open up portals, and these portals bring in characters from alternate realities. And the copycat killer was one of several other characters. We had the Bad Dream Janitor. We had Olaf, who was like a mix of every slasher. His name was Olaf Them. Get it? It's stupid. It's
Brilliant.
but let's not lie. We started this off as a joke. Like that, it was.
When Will created those alternate reality characters, yeah, we were going to shoot just like a promo for his theatrical horror experience, which is on Long Island too, which is where we made Scream.
Was Ian Finnegan ruined it. I'm kidding.
Hey, come on.
I'm kidding. I love you.
But it started as like, oh, let's do a video promo. We'll do a trailer for the thing, and then this thing. I know we're glitching out, but I'm trying to show the mask. Like this Screamwalker character, this copycat killer character jumps out and scares.
Mhm.
So months go by and we don't get to do that, but then we start talking about, well, this is such a cool character, and I'll bet that we can base a movie on a mask.
Mhm.
And then we started coming up with ideas, and Will's ball of yarn idea there, and then we just got all of our wish list scenes in there, and then we just made a script, and it became a movie. It started out as, like Will said, as the live action character in a haunted house scenario.
Yeah, and that wasn't. I don't even know if the camera's going to pick up on it. That, like, this mask in this movie wasn't the first iteration of it. The first year for 2021, we had Decimated Designs, Kyle Pasciuti. He made this mask for us. And this was, and believe it or not, it's not based off of Ghostface. It's not. It's actually based off of a knockoff of Ghostface.
Hold it up for a while because it's glitching. Like,
Yeah, I saw it was up there for a second.
Yeah,
When you guys had it propped against that table there, you could see it pretty good.
It's frozen.
I said, yeah, but hopefully if I hold it up long enough.
Right? Just don't move, and eventually it'll unfreeze.
We'll just prop it up on the table here. We're propping up all three masks on the table.
Now you can see all three of them. So, yeah, like this again. This like towards the middle of us doing this, and behind the scenes, and I hadn't told anybody I was doing it, but in 2021 I started harassing people at Fun World, and just emailing them incessantly.
And Fun World is what?
Fun World owns Ghostface. So Fun World owns the character from Scream called Ghostface, and Ghostface originally started off as part of the Fantastic Faces mask line, that's really nostalgic for me, and probably even Sean, because what I remember more than anything was going to a Walgreens or a Genevieve's. It was Genevieve's for me. Genevieve's. This is like a lot of Italians here on Long Island.
So there's all three.
Apologize for that.
Oh, you can see them now.
Owned drugstores on Long
Yeah,
Island.
so we had these things called Genevieve's, and they were drugstores. And the first time I had it was 1991, and I had walked into a drugstore, and I got my first Ghostface mask for my birthday, October 1st, 91.
So cool.
And that was, it smelled like vanilla, and it brought back. So I knew that I wanted Fun World to be a part of this in some sort of way. So when we were making the V2, we had kind of conspired to hire an artist from Fun World and have them make a new version of the Copycat Killer mask, but not to rip off Ghostface, but to like
pay homage
to it. But if you saw it, you'd be like Ghostface, but it's very clearly not Ghostface.
It's feline in nature.
It's feline in nature, and we have called it the Copycat Killer for obvious reasons, because it's a cat face, it's punny,
and we're not copying anything, but we are.
Yeah, essentially. So the
careful.
The original movie idea was called Screamwalkers. Instead of calling it Scream, call it Sean was just like, no, Screamwalkers is cool, and we were just making fun of the idea of merging Scream with the absurdity of Sleepwalkers.
Yeah, and if you're not. Hopefully you're familiar with the Scream movies, but
if you're not familiar with Sleepwalkers, get familiar with it.
Yeah, you might not be familiar with a movie called Sleepwalkers, which is a Stephen King, Mick Garris movie.
It's about incestuous cat people.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Who are afraid of cats somehow.
It
doesn't make sense. They're like vampire cats or something, right?
Yeah, they're like cats.
Lycans or some shit.
So we used a little bit of that in Screamwalkers too, but mostly it was the kind of the pop horror era, the post-Scream era, where slasher movies and horror movies came back in a sort of original way after not being what they used to be in the 80s. You know, if you weren't there, they kind of died off in the 90s after sequel and franchises ended, and they just kept beating dead horses.
Yeah.
And then it didn't feel fresh anymore after Child's Play 3 and, A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, they killed Freddy, and then
they killed Freddy. Jason died how many times?
And then when Wes Craven, first you got to be a Kevin Williamson fan too, and if you're not, you should definitely watch Dawson's Creek.
Oh yeah.
That show's incredible. No, I'm not kidding. Dawson's Creek.
No.
There
I
are
love Dawson's Creek.
2 horror episodes in Dawson's Creek.
And they're like Scream movies.
And they're like Scream movies.
Yeah,
and they're fan-freaking-tastic. And there's also a crazy side story about Pacey getting raped by his teacher, which no one talks about. His old teacher is totally a pedophile. No one's bringing that up. Everyone's just
I agree.
It happens to a guy. You're just like, cool. No.
But okay, now
that shit happens.
there's even more inspiration. I'm feeling the inspiration now.
So Sean and I had talked about making this mask better, and we did. And we hired Clive, who is Burkbench Designs, and he works for Fun World. And then just this year, Fun World reached back out to us to collaborate, and we worked directly with Fun World moving forward. And I think we're allowed to say this now, that Fun World owns this. They own it now. And in 2025, you're going to get a chance to walk into a Spirit Halloween and buy that mask.
Oh, that's
Stop
badass.
it, really?
So
That is so
what
cool.
more than anything.
So weird. So bizarre.
Listen, without like us being tenacious people and being like really like, no, we have to manifest this into reality. The coolest part of this for me is this came out of an alternate reality game and experience, and now exists in our real reality. And that's probably only cool to me because if you're an ARG person, that's like the one thing you want to happen in your ARG, where there's enough crossover between a fake reality and the one you're living in that you blur the lines enough that you don't know what is what. And now
that kind of happened in real life.
And that happened in real freaking life. And you're going to be able to go experience being the copycat killer on your own.
You can be that for Halloween.
You can be that for Halloween. You're going to be that for Halloween.
But you got to see the movie first.
Yeah, well, that's a big thing. Is like we want to make sure people know where this came out of, and we are so thankful to guys like RJ at who is like who is Ghostface essentially. He's the guy who named Ghostface. We worked directly with him. He was an extremely awesome person to work with. Sean got a whole tour of the facility when he went to talk to RJ about it.
He gave me $100 cookies too. We shared $100 worth of cookies.
Wow, I didn't get a chance to do that.
I was just supposed to drop the mask off at Fun World.
No, then this guy's having a freaking party with the dude.
Well, it's weird because Clive is in
England.
He's in England. He's the artist of this the mask that's going to be released. But the company Fun World, luckily enough, is here on Long Island where we live. So it was easy to kind of knock on the door after, kind of pushing the door down and just going there and dropping off the mask in person and getting to know RJ Torbert, who was a beautiful guy and so
just
fun to work
a doll.
with.
The guy's a great dude. He's super kind, but he's a business guy. And when he first approached me, when he first finally answered me, I thought we were gonna get sued. I really thought that.
Oh no!
I thought we were gonna get fucking sued.
And we were waiting for that call from Spyglass or Paramount.
But then he was like, "We've been looking for a mask like this," and that's when I was like, "Okay, I'm not obviously, if you know me and you've been to my shows, I'm not a money-minded person, believe it or not. I initially was like, I'm just going to give this to you guys. I want you to have it. And he's like, no, we're going to give you royalties on it. And we're going to actually make this a real collaboration. And that is probably the most insane thing that's ever happened in my life. I think other than becoming a dad, this is the second thing to that. And I get to do it with one of my best friends. And, I can't think of anything cooler. I really, really can't. Yeah, can you?
It's pretty bonkers. No, this is to make the mask, and then the movie out of the mask, and then have the mask come out for Halloween in actual retailers and especially a movie of this size, which is, a blip on anybody's radar. Hopefully, as far as now, hopefully it gets, people see it. But right now, it's such a small movie, but we're hoping it's the small movie that said I can do this, and it does it.
I hope you walk into a Spirit Halloween and you see the V2 copycat killer mask.
Yeah.
You're gonna see this right next to Ghostface because it's, I don't know if I'm misspeaking here, but I think it's gonna be it could end up being a Ghostface variant. I think, and you're gonna end up seeing that in other licensable material, and we started this whole concept on the idea of being mimetic and a mask that changes over time. We have this third version of it here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it.
Probably
Hopefully it'll freeze on it.
Frozen.
Is it frozen with it?
It's frozen. No.
There we go.
Don't try.
Nice.
Anyway, you will be able to see this in stores next Halloween. Oh, we got it. Yeah, there we go.
Very
frozen.
cool.
So the third version of the mask is made by a guy named Douglas Little, who is Drown Boy Productions on YouTube. If you don't know who he is one of the most expansive screen collectors. I stumbled across his YouTube randomly, and it was
his collection.
His collection's bonkers. But here's the funny thing: when we made
screen collection,
when we made the V1 mask, I had someone secretly send him a copy of the V1.
Oh yeah.
And I wrote in the it's like Screamwalkers 1994 or 93 or whatever, a year before Scream came out, and I didn't tell him it wasn't real. He just had probably thoughts like someone found this at a yard sale.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And he put it out on the internet, and then I was like, okay, I'm done fucking with the guy. So now I'm gonna actually approach him and be like, hey, that's a mask from my haunted house, and I wanted you to have it because I really love your YouTube channel. I love the content you put out. He's genuinely one of the nicest people on the planet. He helped promote this mask before Fun World came around, and I owe like a great deal of thanks to him. So thank you, Douglas, for being awesome. And he made the third version of the mask, and I hope he ends up selling these for himself once the movie comes out.
Yeah, and speaking of the movie, the only way to see it right now is we kicked off our film festival season, so the movie's playing at hopefully a lot of film festivals throughout the year, all over the country, and hopefully up north in Canada and over to Europe. So hopefully, hopefully we'll have news regarding that. But if you want a physical copy of the movie on DVD or Blu-ray, our Indiegogo campaign is perpetually open. So you can go order a perk off of there. You can get T-shirts, hats, enamel pins. You can get screen-used props from the movie. So the campaign is still open, and you can make a donation at any time, and we'll send you a copy of Screamwalkers.
Yeah, we'll sign it. Don't you want to know our name?
Then you got to come over every time something needs to be signed.
You can just sign for me. I like to do that anyway.
You could just sign for me.
Sean signs for me. He's my.
So
do we have a link?
Yeah. So I wanted
Carrie's
to say,
been dropping. Okay, there we go.
The description of this video, there's a link to the Indigo. There's also links to all the different social medias for Screamwalker. So if you want to learn more, that's where you go. Get those links. Help support filmmakers. And we got just a couple more questions for you.
I'm sorry, we like steamroll. Sorry.
No, you're good.
And this is how you get the people very excited when you mention signed merchandise. So,
so, what are the top 3 things that you feel should be in every horror movie?
We'll go first.
Top
tits.
No, I hate nudity in horror films.
No.
Yeah, I hate nudity. I hate pornography in general. I don't want to see any nudity and stuff. Things I used to love were watching kids die in horror films. But since becoming a dad, I don't feel that way anymore.
Come on.
I don't.
What happened to you, man?
No, now I just get sad.
You're so soft.
You got really soft, Will.
Fucking Guillermo del Toro's Mimic. Like when those kids get killed, I'm like, oh, I don't like that anymore.
I still watch it.
It used to be kids getting killed, but now it's you gotta have I love creature features, and it's because like I watch a lot of Aquabats and Yo Gabba Gabba with my daughter that I love creature features now, and you gotta have an awesome creature. You should have really like dope practical effects. I don't need a lot of blood or gore. In fact, I kind of like try to avoid it unless it's like goofy blood and gore. So like street trash kind of gore. But like I guess the third thing would be, you gotta have good lighting. That's the other thing. It's gotta look good for me. It's gotta have good cinematography.
Yeah, these tastes kind of like key things change for you and for me over time. Like you said, like I used to be a gore freak. Like I would seek out, like when I was 13 or 14 getting into these things, I would need to see like.
Well, you were like a splatterpunk kid back then.
Yeah, right. I would need to find like, the guinea pig movies and stuff, and like, I need to find underground splatter and all this other stuff.
Basically, Sean was a living version of a Serbian film.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, God.
Oh, if the Serbian film was out when I was 13, I would have been like, it would have been the greatest thing. But
right,
that was kind of boring though. So I would say, definitely a monster.
Oh yeah,
a creature. I think if they're must-haves, it's that, It's it can't be boring. I know these aren't things, but I think the worst thing a movie can do is to be boring. So it's got to be fun. It's got to have like a fun aspect to it. It's got to feel festive in a horror way.
Like Return of the Living Dead is I would say
that's pretty much about perfect.
That movie is more fun than it is horror, but it falls in horror because of the genre and the theming. But that movie's premise is just about having as much fun as possible.
Yeah, and that movie still scares me sometimes.
What?
Like, Tarman is terrifying.
Oh yeah, Tarman's definitely terrifying.
When he's coming up the stairs and shit, is like,
you know the
scene, it's hilarious.
The scene of Return of the Living Dead that really freaks me out is the chick on the table.
Yeah, that's
and it's how she talks about death. That's that part that messes me up. Is that it never ends. And you're always in pain.
Yeah,
and that just sucks because like when you die, you're like, I don't want this anymore.
Yeah, you gotta live in pain.
You live in pain now. The pain of being dead. Oh, what?
That's one of my top horror movies.
What's that?
Yeah.
Return of the Living Dead. I absolutely love that one.
Yeah, I mean, try to think of another movie that's so universally loved for all the right reasons and it's justified. That's
Reanimator.
Yeah, there might be some detractors of Reanimator. I mean, it's a fine movie, but like Return of the Living Dead is like try to find somebody who didn't like that.
Return of the Living Dead Part 2 is I think equally as good as the first one. But
that's the take.
Ideally more fun. Well, it's way more funny. It's supposed to be like, well, I guess more of a.
It's wacky. It's probably not fun.
Yeah.
It's wacky. All right, you know what?
Wacky.
I like a wacky horror film. And you know what? That's why I like Naked Lunch by David Lynch. Oh, not David Lynch. David Cronenberg. Cronenberg's Naked Lunch is a fucking wacky horror film. I should say everyone should see that movie.
I would say the third thing I would put in every horror movie is a zombie.
I don't agree with that.
Even if it's like a ghost story.
What?
Even if it's a slasher movie.
Is that why there's a mummy in Screamwalker?
Yeah, there's a mummy in Screamwalker.
Hey, spoiler.
Oh, okay, put a mummy in the movie. Every movie should have a mummy. There we go.
All right. No, listen. It took me a while to warm.
It just makes everything better.
It took when he told me that there was going to be a mummy in the movie.
That was like a late addition to the movie.
I was just like, "What? A fucking mummy?" And he's just like, "Don't question it, man.
Right, just go with it.
Don't question mummies." And now that I saw the movie, I'm just like, especially at the end of it, like I'm not going to ruin it for everybody, but there's some really
right. Just tell us the whole ending. Just go ahead and just say the whole ending of the movie right now for everybody.
I'm a big spoiler person, but I'm not going to spoil
I am too, and I'm trying to stop you.
There is a visual transformation scene in this movie that is so like archaic and old. But, But like
talk about CGI in movies,
but very, very, very cool.
Yeah, the transformation.
This was cool as shit, and it's because it felt like. Did it feel like going back and making a student film for you?
It felt like going back and making a movie with my friends, like you said, but when I was 16 or 17. Before, like, the dread and darkness of life seeps into you.
Did you have that nostalgic time travel feeling, though? Like,
yeah. No,
because we were shooting a lot of this in October, and, like, there were times when we were shooting it that, like, I, like, would smell the air and be like,
oh, we shot
this
on Halloween.
This takes me back to the Gooligans days.
Yeah.
And the Gooligans was a sitcom, a monster sitcom that he did for a long time, and people look, you don't know this about Sean King, but I'm going to tell you. Look up Slacker TV.
Oh
it was a public access sketch comedy show that he was on, and that's how I even knew about Sean King and Mike Kosick and Pete Bune, was because I grew up watching them on public access.
Yeah, we used to put the movies on government public access TV before the internet.
But that's exactly how you think we would watch Screenwalkers.
Right. Well, that's why. Yeah, it's definitely spiritual in that.
Hold on, guys. Hold on. Because I'm fangirling out.
Okay.
At the moment.
Wait till you see what a young.
Is this the Detective Penny?
What? Oh, who's that? What?
The Detective Penny from Screenwalkers has laid his foot down and said, "No spoilers."
No spoilers.
Oh, that's Glenn McBride Jr.
Glenn,
yeah,
we love you.
No spoilers. He's right.
Oh my gosh, I love you.
He's the star of Screenwalkers, Glenn McBride Jr.
Seriously, one of my favorite characters.
All the sequels too. The next Screenwalkers movie definitely has a theming around Stargate, SG-1. Actually, so I think moving forward for making movies, it will be for me like if you approach me, you're like, hey, listen, think about Stargate meets.
All right, every horror movie needs a Stargate.
Well, no, it's just like you take two horror movies and you just merge them together, and then you have an alternate reality movie.
That's what we did.
And that's what we did.
Mhm.
And I hope alternate reality movies become a thing for people. Like instead of like wanting a sequel to something or a reboot.
Yeah, we're at an interesting time for indie horror too, because like the things I get excited about now are, I would call them, respectfully so, I would call them concept movies.
Yeah.
Where like Late Night with the Devil was a great example, where it's a higher concept than normal. It kind of it gives you a different perspective on watching a movie. In a Violent Nature was a kind of step in a different fun direction. Chris LaMartina's WNUF Halloween special.
Oh yeah, love that movie.
It is also one of those, and Skinamarink too. I mean, these are movies that are completely against the grain, trying something new.
But also not new though. I think what makes those movies work, and what makes Screamwalkers work is that we're just doing things that used to be done, but bringing them to a modern way of looking at them.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's
Like Chris.
Well, like what Sean
said,
did
it aged with
Screamwalkers.
you, right? Is
Yes.
that the term you used? And that makes complete sense to me.
What was the term?
That it was like, well, you can say it, Chris.
Oh, I just said that the movie, it felt like it aged with you. It matured with you.
Right.
Awesome.
That's a fantastic review.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to say before Glenn Lee, well, I can say it to both of you, to all of you, but I thought it was cast brilliantly. I loved the writing, and there is a particular scene that I will not spoil, but there was zinger after zinger after zinger,
yeah.
and I know you know what I mean.
Yeah. I'm glad you thought that was funny, because that was one of the moments in the movie where we want to inject humor to keep it fun, with it, we want to make you scream and then laugh and then feel something.
Oh, it was all of it. Yeah. That's what made it for me
That's
perfect horror movie, was because it was funny, and I am a scaredy cat, and I did the multiple jump scares where I said,
Awesome.
Chris, I know you probably didn't
She
get
did.
scared because Chris never does, but I screamed. And yeah, so like it had everything. But that scene in particular, it was like timed right in the movie too, where like you needed that laugh. I was wondering that. I wanted to ask, and we have a spoiler. I thought there was no spoilers, Glenn McBride Jr.
Glenn,
What now?
block Glenn from the chat.
Don't you dare spoil this, Glenn. What's he gonna say?
So before we wrap up, I know you already plugged where people can go for the Indigo, but why don't you do that one more time, and then we'll wrap for the night.
Yeah, sure. You can go to Indiegogo.com and search Screamwalkers, and you'll find it there. You'll see the mask. You'll see the. You'll find the page if you search Screamwalkers, and we're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Screamwalkers movie. You can find. Yeah, we do updates all the time on how you can get a copy, where it's screening, if there's a new perk available or an item to buy, and event to go to. Yeah, so just look up Screamwalkers on the Googles, and you'll find it in one of the internets there.
Yeah, we're one of the internet compartments.
One of the corners
Yeah.
of the internets.
And thank you. Carrie's been dropping all of those links for you guys. The TikTok, the Indiegogo. So everybody who's watching this back on replay too, all of the links are in chat for you.
Yep. So thank you, everybody watching. And thank you, Carrie, for dropping all those links. Will, Sean, and Detective Penny, thank you for being here and promoting this brilliant movie. I cannot wait for these people that have watched this live to be able to experience it for themselves, because it was a blast. It's a great little roller coaster ride that you smile all the way through it. It's fun. It's really fun.
That's
It really is.
Thank you all so very much.
Thank you everybody for having us. And remember to keep your eyes peeled for 2025, because you could buy this. You'll be able to buy that mask in stores, and you could get Screamwalkers now and get on the bandwagon and say, hey, I know where that mask came from before all the nerds go into those
Yes.
Halloween stores and be like, "What's this?"
I was the first nerd.
I know. I'm waiting for like the sexy Screamwalker thing that's gonna come out.
All right, guys, and thank you everybody for watching. Have a good night.
Thank you all so much.